We've got an amazing set of questions today, and this is going to be a lot of fun. The main question is cooking on board ship and shipboard food. Thanks for joining us today on Questions and Answers with James Townsend and Son. Thanks for all the great comments on Monday's video on barbecue. It was a great episode, and we got a couple questions here that are directly related to that, especially right there at the beginning of the video. This one is, why is your breath fogging? Are you filming in sub-freezing temperatures? And then another one here, from your icy breath, it looks cold. Looks like it's really cold. Did open fires like the one you had in the video not provide sufficient heat for the house in that time period? Yeah, it was really cold. It was like 15 or 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Luckily, Lacey had come earlier in the day and she had actually started the fire, so it wasn't so incredibly cold in the room. But that kitchen is a separate kitchen. It's off of the main house, and so it doesn't have any kind of collected heat like a larger building would have. And to get a good draft in that chimney, you really have to have some outside air coming in, either from the door or from windows. So we always had to have kind of this cold, fresh air coming in. And so an open fireplace like this, it does not heat the room terribly well. So we just had to live with it. Here's a question that came in on the potato cheesecake episode that we did a number of years ago. It says, have you ever had trouble completing a part of a recipe the old-timey way and just used modern technology? And then he goes on to say, 18th century whisks are quite effective. Yes, some 18th century equipment works great, and other times, boy, it's really nice to have some modern equipment tucked in the back. And so occasionally we do have something that really, really needs the modern conveniences to kind of finish it up. Whenever we do the ones where you whip eggs for an hour, we don't whip eggs for an hour. We use a food processor and have that whip up the eggs for us. It really saves a lot of time. And something like almond paste. In the 18th century, you would sit there and mash your almonds in a mortar and pestle, and it would take forever. It's very difficult to do. In a modern context, boy, you put that in a food processor, and 10 or 15 minutes later, you're done. It's perfect. So, yes, sometimes we cheat. We use modern equipment because, well, we've got a lot of videos to make in a day, and we can't take hours and hours to prepare the stuff. This one comes in on the last Q&A. I was just wondering, did they have the harmonica or mouth harp in the 18th century? And did they use leeks in their soups or green onions? Well, number one, the harmonica and mouth harp, that really is a early 19th century invention. It doesn't come in until, say, the 1820s or 1830s, and maybe even doesn't get popular even after that for a while. So, 18th century, they didn't have anything like that, but they did have the jaw harp, but that really is just a good way to bust your front teeth out. When it comes to leeks in their soups and green onions, yes, both of those items were used in lots of different kinds of spring soups. We have a spring soup episode. You might want to go back and check that out. So many of these kind of herb soups, especially in this early springtime, when these things first start popping up, they're going to get really popular and they're going to show up in soups. But leeks obviously are going to be a later on thing, but leeks can last quite a while. So they're a thing to use in the late fall and early winter because they're still good. So yes, it was a very popular item. Here's one that came in on the potted beef episode, and they say, why did they call it that? Well, you were storing beef in a little pot, and I guess that's why you call it potted beef. Here's a question on the hardtack or the ship's biscuit episode, and this question kind of keeps coming up several different times in different forms. This person says, could honey be added to improve the flavor without decreasing the shelf life? And the answer is no. Honey is going to decrease the shelf life. You're adding in liquids and you're adding in those sugars, and it's gonna actually increase the likelihood of maybe not necessarily going bad from mold, but you'll probably increase things like rodents getting in there and wanting to chew on these things. When they preserve it like this, it's preserving it in many different kinds against many different kinds of things. And really, you got to remember, these ship's biscuits weren't to be eaten by themselves necessarily. It wasn't like you just grabbed up a ship's biscuit and started trying to chew on it because, well, you couldn't do it, number one, but they're really included as an ingredient and other things. So there wasn't really any reason that you would want to add something like honey into these. You're not trying to make them taste good. Here's a great question that came in on the last Q&A. How do you intend to be historically accurate in any sort of way when there are many modern objects and things going on around you? I find there always seems to be a TV on or someone's on the phone. I hear the highway. I sleep with a fan on, etc. The list can go on. And partly the reason why camping is my main line for anything historically related, because otherwise there's just way too much modern stuff going on. And many people do find it much easier to sort of get into the historical mindset when you're camping, and you can kind of get away from it all. Other people have sort of ways to get into an historical mindset or a way of thinking. And sometimes that can be just a simple object that helps them kind of click into thinking in historical ways. So some people might have a particular piece of a garment, or they might have their fancy rifle that really kind of takes them away. It takes them back in time, just that single object. So different ways for different people. And in your case, if it takes camping and getting away from it all, well, then that's what it takes. Each person has their own kind of way of getting into character. And here's the main question, and you could probably do a 3-hour documentary on this, so I'm just going to cover this very lightly, but it's a really interesting question. I was wondering what 18th century cooking was like on ships during the time period. What did they eat? How was the fire controlled on a wooden ship? I'm guessing it wasn't all weevils in hardtack. Really good question, and it is, again, a very, very big topic, but fire on board ship was obviously a very difficult thing. You didn't want to burn down the ship around you for cooking, so they had special areas where they would cook. Many times they would actually have a sort of a bricked-in area that would protect the rest of the wooden ship from their fire, and that was a really difficult job on board ship cooking. You had to deal with very constricted space. You had to deal with smaller vessels, and you were cooking for a lot of different people that had to eat all at the same time. So you can imagine it would be a difficult task to keep this all happening. But it also restricts the kind of cooking you can do. And so much of what's happening in shipboard cooking has to do with boiling. We talked in other episodes, like the last Q&A, about why a particular dish was boiled instead of being baked. Well, on board ship, the ability to cook in many different ways was, well, again, very restricted. You're going to have a large cauldron. You're going to be, boiling all this beef in, and you're going to be throwing in like ship's biscuits and other things. So you have a very restricted set of foods, restricted abilities to cook them. So to get a quick idea about what kind of foods were available, there's a really good post on savoringthepast.net if you want to go over and check that out. And it has to do with provisioning ships. And let me just read out some of the things that are showing up in the kinds of things they're taking on board ship. Now, these are all items that could be stored for a long period of time. The sailor's diet also had fresh things in it at times when that was available, but these are the things that they would eat when they were out at sea for a long period of time. Salt beef, salt pork, beer. They would also take a lot of fresh water with them because they wouldn't have that available to them. They had, of course, ship's biscuits. So those things, that's the main quantity in weight that they would take along. But they also brought along butter, cheese, oatmeal, peas, just flour, suet vinegar. Let's see, this other one had raisins, rum, and nope, that's about it. So they're just, and some suet here, so you could make puddings. So imagine the kind of different kinds of dishes you could make with just those items, and you're going to have to mix it up, but really you're going to end up with the same thing basically day after day after day. Great questions, great comments. Thank you so much for your involvement in the comment section, in the community. You guys are doing a tremendous job out there, and I want to thank you. It's very supportive. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do videos on YouTube, is because we can get all this wonderful feedback and we understand what people are interested in. So it's a lot of fun, and I have a blast reading the comments. So thank you so much for that. And we are working on the t-shirts. Right now we're working on the artwork, and so hopefully sometime next couple weeks maybe we'll start talking about this some more. But your input was great on that and really helpful, so thank you for that. If you're interested in more about what we're doing, make sure to head on over to our Facebook page. We have a lot of stuff that's kind of flowing through there, and a lot of really good comments and pictures coming in from people that are making some of the dishes, so there's a lot of fun with that. And we are, in a couple of weeks, headed to Locust Grove down in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll be doing some episodes down there. That'll be a lot of fun. We have 2 more Michael Twitty episodes coming up, and then we'll probably be doing a couple of episodes with Michael Dragoo. So lots of fun cooking coming up. Thank you so much for all your support, and thanks for watching.
Hey, a good day to you. We have some very special guests in the store today. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to meet them. This is Christopher and Chris and Laura from Covington, Ohio. They drove all the way here today celebrating birthdays, and it's been a fantastic visit.
Yes.
So
it has. If you ever get a chance to come here, do it. It's amazing. The people here are wonderful. They're great. They'll help you in any way they can. You come here and bring a napkin because you will be drooling over everything that's here. It's wonderful. We came for my wife's birthday. She needed a whole new wardrobe. They're helping her out. They measured her, fitting her for everything. It's amazing. Awesome is an overused word nowadays, but it's not overused here. It's wonderful. I mean, I'm starting to get a first-person persona together because of this gentleman right here, because of his videos and everything him and John do. It's indescribable. And to come and talk to them, they'll meet with you. It's wonderful. Please, if you get a chance, please stop.
yes.
It's great.
So please feel free to stop by. It's been a great visit.
Oh,
Thank
I've
you
loved it.
so
Thank
much
you.
for coming today.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. So all right. We'll see you later.